What's going on, rugby fans out there? This is the RFD show. I am joined by the boss. And before I give him a word, I just want to thank you guys for listening to our podcast and that you're tuning in. We appreciate it. We love you, diehard fans, and we love that you interact with us on all our platforms. Please do not stop with that. We are hashtag the RFD family, and you are welcome to join if you are new. And boss, I don't know how you're doing, but I'm doing great and excited for this week and this weekend. So what's on that side?
Hey Daniel, no, very good. Just excited about the rugby, of course. Like always, that's why we do this, and we love rugby. Just happy that the winter is hopefully fading away. Hopefully,
Hopefully, yes. And like all things, all good things must come to an end. So this
yes,
winter that has been good to us, that brought us the rugby, has to come to an end. But hopefully the rugby stays. So with
yes.
every dark cloud, there's a silver lining. So today we're going to do a different kind of episode. We're going to discuss coaches and what coaches we will also wanted to be or think we would have been. So let's dive right into it. I don't think there's anything more to say. So I'm just going to give you a name and you just say what you think about the person.
Let's go.
Sounds good?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with the coach that's probably been in the news lately, Warren Gatland. Obviously, the
Mm.
British Ice Lions coach, the Chiefs coach, and former Wales coach. So, thoughts and opinions.
So Gatlin, for me, I don't know if I should keep to my opinion just because of the last couple of games that he didn't look like he wanted to coach them. Just my opinion. Jock mentioned it in the last couple of episodes. I can't remember. Just the way that his body language. Let me just get that out of the way. His body language towards the camera and towards the team didn't look very good. But overall, him as a coach, I think he did very well with Wales. What he's going to do with the British and Irish Lions is still to be seen. I think he has a very interesting job with them. Only being able to have a tournament, a tour every couple of years is definitely tough on a team to get them ready. And the way that the coach is actually, the style that he wants to coach and to get in the team. I'm gonna actually give him a rating. We can do that right through
Yeah,
the
let's.
episode. I
Why
think that
not? Why not?
will be very
Hmm.
cool. So let's do like an out of 10. We shouldn't go to out of 100 or out of 1,000. Let's just go out of 10. I think he's a 6.5. He's just above average, actually, for me personally. What he did with Wales, I don't want to take that away. What he did with Wales is very good. He got them up to, and I'm going to put this in air quotes, to the number one team in the world, according to the log. But that wasn't seen against the All Blacks until they failed to beat them in the bronze final in the World Cup. So
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to go into that, but like a 6.5, 6.5.
not a bad rating, should say. I would give him 6.5, the same as he's with the Chiefs now. But with
Mm,
Wales, I would have given him international. I would have rated him something like an 8.
yes.
Something. So different rating for different levels. I think. So moving on to a fan favorite, Jamie Joseph, that coached Japan. And before I give you
Mm,
the chance, I just want to mention that I love him, and that the fact that he stayed loyal to Japan when there was talk that he would coach New Zealand after the World Cup. He decided now he wanted to stay in Japan. So I want to give him a shout out to that. I'm just going to say I think he's like a 7 to 8 out of 10 for me. A good
yes.
coach with what he has player wise. I think he's doing good. So
Yes, I agree with you there. I don't know if this will be frowned upon, but I actually think he needed to move to New Zealand. I personally feel he should have moved to New Zealand with
mm,
this job, and because he had the capacity to do that. He had the capacity to coach New Zealand, maybe get them out of the way that they have been coached. Not that I'm saying they should mix up the recipe. They are one of the best teams in the last decade. Is in the best, excuse me, the best if it goes to statistics wise. I mentioned it as well. 89% winning rate in 10 years. That's
yeah.
insane. That's something. It's unbelievable. We probably won't see it ever again. But I think he would have been stretched as a coach if he took on probably the most anticipated, high level, stressful job in the world, getting the All Blacks on a 9 out of 10 winning rate again. So
Yeah.
that would have been, but he's doing phenomenal work at Japan. I'm not going to take that away. He did very good work with them in the last couple of years, because I think he got the job after Eddie Jones left, if I'm not mistaken. So he's been there for a couple of years now, and they will continue to become a great rugby nation because of his wisdom, his leadership, his way of coaching. Great coach, great coach. I'll give him an 8 out of 10. Absolutely, great coach.
Yeah. Moving along to back to Europe, Joe Smith, an ex-New Zealand born rugby union coach. Well, not ex-born, he's an ex-New Zealand rugby union coach. He coached Ireland between 2013 2019 and won 3 Six Nations Championship. And obviously he was part of that big victory over New Zealand after they lost the first time in that final minutes. So not a bad coach. Definitely one of the smaller coaches that we are looking at. I mean, in size, not in status. I think he did well with what he had, because I remember, he was at most of his players at the end of an era, because it was the Paul O'Connells, then Shea Callaghan's, and I think Brian O'Driscoll ended his career under him. So he had a lot of gaps to fill, and actually had a lot to work with, or young talent, raw talent to work with.
Yes, I think he was a good coach as well. International wise, I don't know about his club status and who he coached at that stage, but international wise, 7.5 out of 10. I think he did very well with Ireland, and how he transformed a couple of the positions into the younger guys. Because like you said, it's Paul O'Connell, if I'm not mistaken. He was also the captain for the Lions in the last tour in South Africa, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Or maybe it was New Zealand. I can't even remember now. But a massive figure in rugby for Ireland. And then, of course, Brian O'Driscoll. Come on, this echoes if you hear the guy's name. Probably one of the best, top five of all time outside centers. And if you disagree, please tweet us. Tweet us. We'll get back to you. Then we can have a cool debate about that. But yes, I think he did very well with him, and kudos to him. 3 out of 6 is amazing. Beating New Zealand. If I'm not mistaken, they broke the record that New Zealand was trying to set up, like going, I think, 28, 30, 32 games unbeaten.
Yes, I believe it was.
Yes,
and
they
the first time
broke
it was
the
there was the drama as well, where they lost in the last minute with the charge too early. So, coming back from something like that, they actually beat New Zealand. So not a bad show, actually. So
no, great. That was a great one. So that for me, probably that was one of his highlights. He's like, okay, I won 3 Six Nations, and I beat New Zealand's record. Well, I stopped them of just gaining another record. So yes, no, great coach as well. International.
What was your rating again? I think you said 7.5.
7.5. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's fair. Moving on to Sir Graham Henry, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's just Graham Henry.
Yes.
So obviously he was the predecessor to Steve Hansen, isn't it?
Yes, he was. He gave the baton over to Steve Hansen, and then Hansen now to Foster, if I'm pronouncing his surname right.
Yes, and I'm just checking. I didn't believe he did he win a World Cup? I'm not sure. Not completely sure.
So Graham Henry, he stopped coaching, I think, in 2009, 10-ish. We can fact check that quickly as well.
I'm going to quickly check that while you give your opinion.
Give that a fact check.
Yes.
So, but if I'm not mistaken, Steve Hansen was leading in 11. Well, he was the coach in 11 and 15 when they won.
He ended
back
at
to
11.
back.
Yes, 2004 to 2011, and also British and Irish Lions coach, also a Wales coach. So interesting.
So Graham Henry. He's a Sir, right? Sir Graham.
I believe. Yeah.
Yes, I think so too.
Well, I think he deserves the title of Sir, so let's give him the title of Sir.
Well, if it isn't, we doubt you, Sir Graham Henry. You're in the category of Sir Alex Ferguson, and I don't know who's other Sirs. But anyway, I think I think what made him special. I don't know. Again, like we are rugby fans. We are passionate about rugby, but that doesn't mean I don't know any other teams and other sports. If hopefully somebody that's listening knows anything about soccer, you would know Sir Alex Ferguson was one of the best soccer
Yeah.
coaches. Now, for me, Sir Graham Hendry was exactly that. He built up this dynasty that Steve Hansen just got. I'm not going to bash Steve Hansen, but if we look at the facts, if we look at the facts, if we look at the way that he coached, look at the way that he mentored people. I mean, Richie, Dan Carter, if you didn't know, Richie McCaw, Dan Carter, Tano Manga, all of them played under him. Great players, great leaders, rugby icons played under Sir Graham Hendry. And without that leadership, without that wisdom and the style of play that he not just enforced but got out of them, literally inspired so many players after them. So for me personally, Steve Hansen got a great team, definitely shifted players. I'm not going to say he didn't do anything. He got the winning recipe and he just went on. That's not what I'm saying, because of course they lost in '07. They didn't win the World Cup. And I think that was hurtful, very hurtful for them. But again, they went back and they started training. They said they are going to win the next one, and they did, and that was amazing. So, great coach. I think he built a dynasty. I think he built a empire of the way that rugby was played and the way that New Zealand dominated rugby. And I would give him an 8.5 out of 10. Personally, I'll give him an 8.5 out of 10, because I think if he didn't have it, because we can shift the scenario. I'm sorry, Daniel. I'm just going to go into
No,
this.
go
Now.
for it. Go for it.
So, if we shifted the scenario, let's say Steve Hansen is better than Graham Hendry. We need to make a poll. I think we're going to make a poll. As soon as this episode is going live, we'll make a poll on Instagram and on Twitter as well. If Sir Graham Hendry did not coach the All Blacks before Steve Hansen, then would Steve Hansen had the successful career he had with the All Blacks? That's debatable because we don't know. But let's say, for example, it was somebody like a James Joseph, or somebody like I'm going to just spitball some big names here: Eddie Jones, Michael Checker. There's many others. They can even international coaches. Doesn't matter who. Was the head coach of the All Blacks before Steve Hansen came there. I think it would have been different. I do not believe they would have an 89% winning rate in the last 100 games. I don't think they would have been number one for almost 10 years on the dot. I don't think they would have won so many rugby championship titles, or even 2 World Cups for that matter. That's my opinion. I can be completely wrong, and hopefully you'll go vote on this poll. But I would love to hear what you think. What do you think about that? Do you think it would be exactly the same outcome if he didn't get that team from a quality coach like Sir Graham Hendry?
Well, I believe and we'll get to those coaches as well, that happened in South Africa. He laid the groundwork, definitely. He did the groundwork, he did the hard work, he did the hard yards, and you can build easily on a legacy. And so he is Sir Graham Hendry, I checked. So Steve Hansen definitely had the work cut out for him, because they won the final 8-7 against France. So it wasn't like they were the best team, but Hansen took them to the next level. But you had to go from a certain level to a next level, and Sir Graham Hendry got into that level. So I'll give him 9 for the groundwork he did. He probably wasn't the most renowned coach, wasn't the best coach in certain ways, but for the groundwork he did with the players and getting a solid team in place, I will give him a 9. And probably I rate him as one of the best coaches ever. And if people don't agree, that's be it. But he's served for a reason. Top 5 for sure. Top
5. Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Awesome. Yeah. So obviously moving on to his successor would be logical. So Steve Hansen will be next then, obviously.
Let me just throw him under the bus.
Yeah, let's just throw it under the bus. Good luck following that, Steve.
Okay, now Now let's just run the scenario again.
It's Sir Steve Hansen. Sorry, Sir Steve Hansen.
Is he okay? Sorry, Sir Steve Hansen. I'm going to try and remember that. So let's say, okay, so Sir Steve Hansen made a amazing records. He created amazing records. They hold amazing records at this moment under his guidance as a coach. And I think the way that he spoke of and to McCall and Kieran Reid, I'm gonna literally pull out these two names, because if we look at some of the best captains in the world of rugby, we can speak of these two. And this all comes from how Richie McCaw plays and how his mindset was. So not to take anything away of the coach, but I think the way that they spoke to each other, the respect, the loyalty, the just admiration for one another, and the way that they wanted to see the game played, I think that helped the All Blacks in the last decade, from 2010 to 2020. And of course, Richie only played a half of the decade. And if it wasn't for Steve Hansen, I don't think Richie would have came back to play in 2015. Understand? Because he did take a sabbatical somewhere between 11 and 15. I can remember he was out, I think, for 7 or 10 months, maybe a bit longer. So yes, I just want to say that as well, just for clarity.
Yeah.
International, I'll give him a 7. I'll give him a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, well, like you mentioned, he took over from Sir Graham Henry, but he was Sir Graham Henry's assistant coach from the entire period that Sir Graham Henry was the coach of New Zealand. The same
Yes.
period, 2004 to 2011, he was the assistant coach. So obviously,
Yes.
he just had to do what he did for the previous 9 years, just make all the decisions, making all the decisions. And very well done to him. I think he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams he doesn't have a win record against internationally. And I think there's about 16 teams listed here. So that's a crazy stat to have. So what he did was he definitely took them to a next level. And he has to get credit for that, because he took over and he learned a lot in the 2004 to 2011 period when he was assistant coach. So well done for taking the right notes and doing the right stuff after that. I definitely give him 8.5 to a 9, because he still was the World Cup winner and he was the best team for a certain, and he held it, because being number one means there's a target on your back. So well done to him. I still believe he did some great work and he was a good coach. I wasn't a big fan of him. I believe he did more behind the scenes work than coaching on the field and coaching during games, because usually he'll sit there and he'll talk on the radio to the manager on the side, but it wasn't like he panicked. It wasn't like he did all the coaching, now we have to do stuff, because they were never flushed it. And I think what he did right was mindset. We are winners, and we're going to stay the winners, and that's the mentality and the vibe he kept in camp, which was important.
I agree with you. That's a good summary, actually.
Moving along to his rival, someone we all love and want to see in the news more, Michael Cheika.
Michael
Cheika. He has nice banter. That's what I like about Michael Cheika. He has nice banter. He doesn't worry.
I don't know. Cheika. I don't know.
I just want to start before you go. I saw this meme that Australia posted where they vote for Michael Cheika out. He starts winning games. Michael Cheika is the best. And then he starts losing games, and then they want Michael Cheika. And it's this vicious cycle that he just had in his career, that every time he just starts losing again, they want him out, then he starts winning, and then he starts losing. So I don't know. I think he didn't have the players to surround him. And that's the thing that fell for him, because I think he was the right man for the right job. I just don't think he had the players to back him up, or his players didn't want to back him up.
That might have been the case, but I don't think that was the problem. I think a couple of strategic moves did not go their way. Definitely in the 10 slot. I mean, if we look at the last couple of years, prior to Quaid, I think prior to Quaid. Okay, let's just play a quick game. When you first, not first started watching rugby, because that was a long time ago. But let's say the last 10 years, who can you remember was the starting 10 for Australia in 2011? Who do you think was it? I don't even know. I'm just like guess balling here. Who was the starting 10 for Australia in 2011?
Was Matt Gitev still playing?
Yes, definitely. Keto was playing
So,
yesterday still.
but I think wasn't it the start of like the Bernard Foley and the Quade Cooper and those guys' era maybe.
So
It's Berwick Barnes even maybe.
yes, Barry Bonds, Quade Cooper. That was the things. And Matt Gito, of course, but they shifted him between 10 and 12.
Yeah,
The same as
yeah.
they do with Owen Farrell, the same that they did with, still doing with Andre Pollard. If they need him in 12, they put him in 12. And so on. You wouldn't do it now because you have somebody like Karevi, which I don't think
Yeah, I think
Matt
the
Gito is
dynamic of the
better.
12 changed, and Australia was one of the teams that changed that dynamic because they I think they learned it from South African teams, the crash ball on center.
Yes, yes. So I agree with you there. But with that being said, of course, so for me personally, they couldn't get a solid team. And if we just can take somebody out of, if we can take something out of Japan's playbook last year when they tried to explain how super rugby, how rugby works, the only human they described out of 15 people or the animals, excuse me, with the, if you haven't looked it up yet, go look it up, how Japan taught the kids what rugby is like. Who's the props, what is the hooker, what is the locks, what is the flankers and stuff like that. The number 10 was the man or the woman, the human, the general. Let's just call him the general.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 10 is the general. I know the 9 wants to be the general because they speak the whole time, but they're not. The 10 is the general. The 10 decides most of all a couple of things on the field. It doesn't mean he has to be captain. That's not what I'm trying to say. But the way that he's going to lead the game, that is going to show. If the 10's confidence is up, you know you can go to the polls every time you're in the half. Every time you're in the opposition half, you can go to the polls. If you look at the fact or the distinct difference between South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, is that New Zealand had a solid team. New Zealand had a solid team. And that shifted over the years because Colin Slade got into that role more, learning from Dan Carter. But Dan Carter was a solid team. He was this solid team. And then you got in players like him. And then, of course, Bowden started learning from him and adapting from him, played a different type of rugby. That's not what I'm saying. It doesn't mean you have to have a different type of skill or you have to be exactly the same as the person previous. That's not what I'm trying to say. But you have to have a solid team. For me, that is Australia's downfall. They still don't have a solid 10. And the worst part of it all, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but if they kept Matt Samoa in the team, he could have became the solid 10. I can't even believe I'm saying this. This is it. If they kept him in, because Christian Leofano was a great 10, but unfortunately, due to sickness and terrible things, I hope everything the best for that man. He couldn't compete at peak level. That's a fact. But Samoa could have been that guy, not Bernard Foley. So I know people are going to debate with me with this fact. They're going to say, no, it should have been Bernard all the way. You know, you should have taken it from Beric or Gito or whoever, Quade, because
even
Quade was
also
even Leofano, okay? And he could have been that solid 10, but it wasn't. And then they started shifting the players. No, let's put this guy here. Let's play Bernard Foley in this way. Let's do this. And then the whole Israel Folau thing, they didn't have the best fullback anymore. And then boom, 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 nothing worked out. So Michael Checker's whole international career with Australia, of course, with the Wallabies, wasn't good.
Was indecisive. And I think that cost them because indecisiveness can cost you. But that basically begs the question, was it selectors as well, or was it Michael Cheika alone? So, and we talked about this in another podcast, what's going on in Rugby Australia. And I think we covered it a bit, that they had a dispute and so on. So please go check that one out as well. But yeah, I believe Michael Cheika's whole career was based on indecisiveness, and I give him a 5 if he's lucky, maybe a 4.
Yeah, I'll give him actually a 4.5. The one thing that I just wanted to mention just before that is he had a high just before he went into Australia to become Australia's coach. He was he won with the Waratahs, the Super Rugby Championship.
Yeah.
And amazing team. I mean, you spoke about 10, Bernard Foley, 12, Kurtley Beale, fullback, Israel Folau, I think left wing or right wing was Adam Ashley Cooper still. You know, if I'm not mistaken, Mitchell still played. I can't even remember his first name now. Drew Mitchell, excuse me. Drew Mitchell played. Amazing team. Got in, won, and if I'm not mistaken, it was against the Crusaders or the Hurricanes. Massive team. They played against a massive team. They were the champions. Went into international rugby, couldn't deliver.
So this is something interesting. Last thing before we move on to the next coach. In the lead up to the 2015 World Cup, he was credited for inventing Gito's law. So I think that just contributes to the indecisiveness that he was trying to spite people or not playing in Australia. And then you don't have your players or your nations right at your heart. You have more something that I want people to play in Australia, and that's it. Like, I don't have, I'm not going to give the best for players. I want the best for me.
Yes.
Okay, so moving along to one of my other favorite coaches, and this is probably the last coach we go into before. We're going to talk about before we go to South African coaches. Is also, of course, Eddie Jones.
The man, the myth, the legend.
And I want to start before I give you a chance. I just want to say that I think I rate him as a coach. I know a lot of people don't like him. It's either you like him or you don't. I don't like to play against him because he's such a good coach. But I like his bands and I like his way of method of doing stuff. Obviously, he has been a good asset to South African rugby. That he was the assistant coach and he gave us a wake-up call by beating us with Japan. So definitely a world-class coach in my books. So no, a lot of people don't agree with me, but I like him and I'll give him 8.5 right off the bat.
8.5. Wow. Okay, so Eddie Jones. What do I think about this guy? So he was, if I'm not mistaken, he was the coach for Australia as well when they won
2001 to 2005. Yeah.
Yes, and they won they lost in 03, right? They lost in 03. England won in 03. Yes. So they
lost the final in England with the last minute drop goal. So they were in the game.
Yes. No, they were in the game. Not bad. I can remember now because of what Gregan said. But anyway, if you want to know what Gregan said, go read the Golden Players on our what do you call it, blog post, rugbyfordays.com. Yes, so amazing coach. What a career he has had. He coached Japan in 96. He was the assistant coach, coached Australia from 01 to 05, coached the Brumbies from 98 to 01, Saracens in 06, Reds 07, assistant coach in South Africa 07, Saracens again. Then he went to the Suntory, Sun Goliath, then Japan, then England. And he's just been in the news. So for me personally, if you want to know what is going on in world rugby and who is the person that they want more than ever is Eddie Jones. I think there's no team, international team, and this again might not be the best statement, but I don't think there's a team that does not want something about Eddie Jones. Okay,
for sure,
because even though he can be quite a
different man.
Yes, I wanted to say like the unfortunate guy. He definitely loves rugby. Like, let's just take everything away, the banter, the things he say, the things that he's getting into his head, and the things that he would want people to know or think about, because of the whole feed, New Zealand players, they have the best academies, Fiji, Tonga. That wasn't recent. That was literally,
Yeah.
I think, the 6th of June. He said that, which is funny. But above all that, if we just can take that away for a quick moment, he loves rugby. He's in it for the game. And that's the one thing I do agree with Eddie. The other things that I don't agree with him is the way that he coach. And it doesn't matter if I like the way that he coaches or not. That doesn't matter because he gets results. So
Yes.
particularly, I don't like his style, but I definitely agree with Daniel. I don't want to play against him. So that's also another thing. So he's not particularly liked, but he's feared and he's respected. Definitely, all across the world. So I'll give him, just because of the Japan thing, because that was miraculous, amazing what he did with Japan and with England for that matter, because England was in ruin when he got there. No offense, England. I'd give him an 8.5 out of 10. 8.5 out of 10. Probably after his career as a coach, he'll go down as top 5.
No, for sure. Top 3 for me. Probably top 3.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with a choice for South African coaches. Obviously, we're going to talk about Rassie Erasmus, because
Yes,
World Cup winner. Then we have the opportunity to cover Jake White or Heineke Meyer, and then Alistair Coetzee or Peter de Villiers. You can choose one of those 2 pools.
Okay, I'm gonna. Oh, there's pools. I can't just choose 1 and 1 because you
You can choose
mentioned.
between Jake and Heineke and Alistair and Peter.
Okay, great. Let's go with Jake White first, and then then we'll worry about the rest. Let's first of all talk about Jake White.
Okay.
Yeah, Jake White. I don't know. What do you think about him? Let me just gather my thoughts about Jake White.
Obviously, he shot himself in the foot with what happened after the 27 World Cup, the 07 World Cup, by saying, "Yeah, I don't want to coach," and then when he sees he's gonna win, he wants to come back and everything. But not a bad coach. Definitely someone not known for loyalty. I think because he jumped from South Africa to the Brumbies, and from the Brumbies to the Sharks, and he took a 5-year gap between South Africa and the Brumbies, coaching I think schoolboys and stuff like that. And from the Sharks, he went to Tonga, technical advisor, and he wasn't even long there. He went to Montpellier and then to Toyota for Blitz. Well, he actually spent some time at Toyota and Montpellier, and now he's at the Bulls. So, I'm excited to see what he does, because he has it under 21. He coached under 21s before, so hopefully he uses the youth that the Bulls have at their disposal. So I just hope that's the only thing I hope for as a Bulls fan. But definitely knows how to win a World Cup. Definitely knows how to coach. I just want to see him with structure, and that's something that I just want to mention. Heineke Meyer, because that he did with the Bulls between the 2000 and 2010 is he built up structure. Hopefully he's the man for the job, because I don't want to be like Man United with David Moyes is the one, and then this guy's the one, and then this guy's the one, and then this guy's the one, and then this guy. So hopefully he is the one that can lead us to the new one.
I'm a bit torn. I agree with you what you're saying there, and it's going to be interesting because he's already shaking up the Bulls so much. I mean, he shook the Bulls. All those Bulls supporters, I think, was like, "What the frick are you doing? What? Why? Why are you getting all these older guys in? Why this? Why that?" So that would be very interesting. And if you want to know anything about the transfers of the Bulls, you can check out our podcast, SA Transfer News and Rumors. So that's also somewhere on the list. But just to get back to his coaching style, the way that he does things, I think most coaches, in my opinion, don't have loyalty. It doesn't mean that they don't have loyalty. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's political issues. It's the management wants them out because they did not agree. You see this all over the world, where a coach is loved and adored because he won, and then something goes wrong, or something in the back office goes wrong. The team is lacking. People, the players aren't showing their part, or they're not playing their part. and stuff just goes wrong for the coach, and then they want him ousted, whatever. They want him out. And so I think that is one thing that we should always know with a coach. He's a coach. He's going to coach. If you give him a team, that is his job. He is going to coach, or she, because there will be female coaches all around the world as well. So that is something that we definitely need to just recognize. But with Jake White, had a phenomenal coach, structure in 07, 04. He also led the Springboks to the Tri-Nations Cup, or victory on the Tri-Nations. For me, international, because his club record isn't as good. No offense, but his club record for me he's not that good of a club coach. But international, did very well. I'd give him roughly an 8 out of 10.
Okay, no, that. I think it's a fair rating overall, and hopefully that rises with all Bulls fans to make a 10 out of 10 when we win the Super Rugby again soon. Moving along from that point, before you say something, I'm going to nominate Alistair Coetzee.
Yes, I wanted to talk about him. Great.
Because he's the ex-Stormer coach, and I believe that he didn't get the credit he was due at the Stormers, because he built a magnificent defense, because the Stormers were known for that for a couple of years. And he groomed players like Pieter-Steph du Toit to become what they are today, and even Etzebeth. And so I believe he had a hand in that, and the success of South Africa at club level, because he obviously knew who to use where. And I think he was responsible for Pieter-Steph moving to 7, if I'm not mistaken.
But yes, because
so
there's a lock.
That changed the dynamic of 7, because when he came from the Sharks to the Stormers, he was a lock, an out-and-out lock, and it wasn't that big for sure. But definitely knowing what he did, he was an emerging Springboks coach. He coached a lot of teams. He was assistant coach before the Sharks, or for the South African team before. He was backline coaches, and he just waited for the job. In 2010 or 2008, he was handed the Western Province job. So, and then from there, he took off.
With him, amazing club record. Unfortunately, during his time with the Stormers, because I'm a Stormers supporter, we couldn't win the Super Rugby. Played a couple of good years in the Currie Cup, so that's something at least. Did groom some of the best players. I mean, the likes of Dwayne Vermeulen, Etzebeth,
John de Villiers.
John de Villiers was already a Springbok at that stage. Leading the team. Bobo still played at that stage. Yes, a couple of great. Hugh Oplon. There's lots of players that played.
The beginning of Jason Colby was also under his reign, so definitely had a massive influence in players' lives.
Yes, definitely. Unfortunately, he did not do very well with the Springboks, and I will be the first one to criticize him. But with that being said as well, I'm not going to just say it was him. We need to understand the political realm in rugby changed very quickly after 2015. If we want to know it or not, if we want to see it or not, I'm not going to get into everything political, but there is a political side in rugby. If it gets to unions, management, owners, coaches, assistant coaches, directors, all the staff of a team, I think sometimes the players are just like, can I play? I want to play the sport that I love. And they just want to complicate it. And then you have this unions and international rugby boards and stuff like that. The one thing that I want to mention, my point with this, is that Heineke Meyer ended his coaching career with the Springboks in 2015. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, under him, we lost to Japan. Not his fault. Not entirely his fault. I'm not going to just put it on him. But he will be known for that, unfortunately. He gave that team over to Alistair. Alistair made a couple of changes, like really a lot of changes. The one thing that I can note is that every change he made, unfortunately, he was scrutinized for, and a lot of pressure came from sources that was not at all in for rugby. They wanted to make it a political agenda. That's my personal view. Again, if you don't agree, tweet us, tweet me direct. That's fine. We can talk about it. But we could see it when Rassie took over. So I'm not going to go to Rassie now, but it is important because he has probably the worst career as a Springbok coach. I don't have the facts here in front of me, but
I have it in front
probably.
of me, so I'll get to that now.
Okay, so we'll get to that now. As you said, probably the worst record as a Springbok coach. I just want people to understand that he didn't get it perfect. He didn't get a Sir Graham Hendry team. No offense again to Sir Steve Hansen. He didn't get a team from Jake White. He got a team that unfortunately did not do very well in 2015. Wasn't competing at world-class level against the All Blacks and Australia in 2015. Again, the statistics that's backing this. I'm not just saying it because I wanna help a guy who's a stormer as well. That's not what I'm saying. You can go check it out. We did not do very well in 2015. The Rugby Championship, we ended, I think, just a couple of points above Argentina. We lost to Australia and New Zealand that year. We did very bad. And so he got this team and they wanted a miracle. And unfortunately, he wasn't the miracle. The miracle came after him. So bad luck to him. I'm going to give him a 6 overall career because he did very well with the Stormers. I'm not going to take that away. But international, unfortunately, going to go down as one of the worst coaches for the Springboks. But it wasn't entirely his fault.
Well, luckily, he wasn't the worst South African coach. He got a 47% win rate. But between the guys he was with, everybody's got about above 60. The last one that didn't get 60 was 2003, was Rudolf Straulian, and before him 53. So then there's a couple of 30s, but that's way back. So in recent years, not the best coach. Didn't manage a win against New Zealand. Didn't manage a win against Wales or England. Losing 11 or won 11 games, losing 12, drawing 2. And that was the downfall. And as you mentioned, wasn't always about rugby, but that's sad. But for South Africa, that was actually a good thing, because when he was sacked, we go to Coach Rassie, who actually was appointed at the beginning, not at the beginning of the World Cup, let's say preparation period. He wasn't even directly after Alistair. So we went without a coach for a while. So that was actually the bad part. We were stressing because we didn't think we were going to win the World Cup, honestly. And then up steps the man of the moment, Rassie Erasmus, and the rest is history, actually. So
yes, absolutely. I don't know if you gave a rating to Alistair before we get into the myth that is Rassie. So what do you
I
think
believe that
about
Alistair deserves a 7 because he did what he did at a provincial level.
Okay.
But I'll give him a 6, a generous 6.5.
Yes.
Because what he did at a provincial level, but his international career wasn't that good. But
yes,
I wouldn't rate him as a bad coach. I wouldn't rate him as a bad coach. Just like you said, he was just at the wrong place, wrong time.
The fact is, and again, this also can be debatable, but let's say Rassie got it at 2016. He got the Springboks, and there was no Alistair Coetzee in the Springbok coaching role. Would we have done better? I hope so. Again, speculative. We don't know. Because then he would have got it at the same stage. Different styles. I'm not going to get into that now, but it's different style of coaching. So let's just leave it at that. But general, I agree. 6, I'll even bump it up to a 6.5. I agree. Generalized.
So diving into Coach Rassie, what do you think?
So Rassie is, if you haven't watched the documentary they did with him and the amazing, inspirational, just pumping them up speech that he gave them on, I think it was on the final day or just before the final. Of course, we're talking about 2019 now, the World Cup. Man, he connected with players. Damn, that's so cool, because if I think about sports and I think about the people that got you out of your seat, he did that with his players. He connected with them. He had a bond with them. He knew them individually. He built them up when they were down. He he saw some of them had more skills and gave them the responsibility to teach those skills in the team. What am I saying about this? What about Kwagga Smith? For example, I know you're a big Kwagga Smith fan.
Mm.
If Coach Rassie, I just call him Coach Rassie, if Coach Rassie didn't see that, do you think, I don't know, somebody else would just walk up to him and say, listen, are you going to teach Malcolm Marx to fetch the ball? No. He saw potential. He saw the skill. And that's why I hope so many, like literally schools, are putting their coaches on their bums and saying, listen to Rassie. You don't even know him. You're a coach in Australia somewhere. You're a coach in New Zealand somewhere, in Japan. It doesn't matter. Listen to how he connected to his players. And then I want you to connect with your players like that. And that's why we won. The bond between him and Sia is the closest bond between a coach and a captain, the closest to Richie and Steve Hansen, Sir Steve Hansen. The closest, not Franco Pinar, not John Smith and Jake White, nothing like that. If you hear how they talk to each other, about each other, the respect between them, it doesn't get any better than that, really. And that's why I'm so, how can I say it? I'm so anxious to see, how Springbok rugby is going to be after this lockdown. I'm not happy at all. I'm not sitting here and saying, yeah, we're the world championship, we're champions team. We're going to beat the All Blacks when we see them next time. No. Yes. So Rassie, 9 out of 10.
Yeah. One thing I have to just mention is, as a kid, I saw him coach, I think it was the Cheetahs side, or it was a province side, but it was a game at Loftus, and there was lights flashing. And I believe that was the way he signaled his players what to do next, run the ball, kick the ball, or whatever. And he always had a different type of style. And that's why actually he was one of the best coaches that will ever have.
Yes.
He's managing director of rugby in South Africa now, so that's good. So always been involved in South African rugby, and that makes a good coach if you know the system in and out. So definitely 8.5 to 9 for sure for me. Just a bit short time at international level to give him a 9 for me, but definitely a good coach otherwise. But I'll usually give him a 9 if he had like 2 more years and showed what he can do really, because he did amazing things in small time. But imagine what he could have done with 2 more years. So
yes, agreed. I agree with you there.
So my question of the day is, I think I have to fact check me about this, or maybe just leave us a comment if I'm wrong. But if I check the stats now, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand are all getting new coaches. So is that a coincidence, or is it Southern Hemisphere rugby is getting restructured?
Oh wow, that's
question of the day.
Very good question of the day. Very good.
So that is it for the question of the day. Please feel free to answer that on all our social media platforms, on basically anything: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can even send us a DM or a comment on YouTube, and wherever you're listening to this, just hit us up and just let us know what you think. So I'm going to give the final words to the boss.
Perfect. Yes, please do that. Hit us up on any platform, and we just want to thank you. Thank you so much for listening to our content. We really want to push out valuable content in the rugby space and build a community. So that's all that I'm going to say, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. #RFD family.